All right, everybody. I'm Todd Jones, CEO of the Reading Chamber of Commerce, and I'm really excited to be sitting down with Tyler Ferris, our 2024 Rising Star of the Year, and we're going to talk about a lot of great stuff. Tyler is known in this town as a filmmaker, and he does some commercial work as well, but he's also a downtown real estate investor. He's raising a family here, and he is an OG. He's been in Reading his whole life, and he's committed to making Reading better, and so join us for this conversation about Tyler and the future of Reading, and stick around. Thanks for being here today, Tyler.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the City Builders Podcast, brought to you by the Reading Chamber of Commerce. I'm Todd Jones, President and CEO. In each episode, we bring you insights from local business leaders, tackle important issues, and explore what's shaping the future of Reading. Whether you're a business owner or just interested in our community's growth, this podcast has something for you. Thanks for joining us. This is City Builders. The City Builders Podcast is brought to you by Obsidian IT. Obsidian IT is a Reading-based, employee-owned technology company providing simple, scalable, outsourced IT for your business. Discover how Obsidian cares about IT and give them a call at 530-242-6000 or obsidianit.com. Obsidian keeps us running at the Chamber, and we could not do business without them. So, Tyler, you are the 2024 Rising Star. You've been here for a while, so I think your star is pretty risen. It's pretty riz.
I have risen.
It's pretty riz. Your star's pretty riz. But you're the Rising Star for 2024, and you've had a big impact on Reading. You grew up here. Tell us about what it was like to grow up in Reading, and really when you started to think, hey, I'm going to be a filmmaker when I get older.
Yeah, so I grew up over by Enterprise High School. So it was a very interesting neighborhood at that time.
Right after it got annexed, probably. Well, not quite, but you'd been there a while.
Yeah.
You're not that old.
Yeah, I was born in '87. So, but it was fun. I mean, we got to ride our bikes all through the neighborhood, and I had really interesting neighbors. It wasn't the same type of people around, so it kind of created this sort of diverse growing up.
As diverse as you can get in Reading.
As diverse as you can in Reading. So it was really, really neat, really different. But my dad always had cameras around. So he had the big VHS camera. And after I got a little bit older, he was like, okay, you can start using it. I think begrudgingly, we just pulled it out of the closet and started using it. But I have a younger sister who's 2 years younger, and then a younger brother who's 8 years younger. And I would just use them in all of the videos I would do. And I would do stop motion videos. And I just really liked it. I gravitated towards it. It was some of our, exciting things that I did. Using that creativity, we were always doing different things. We actually did a complete remake of The Wizard of Oz.
Like a full length?
Well, it wasn't
not quite.
Length,
okay.
It had every scene,
wow,
really.
That's a lot.
And my mom filmed it, and you hear my dad's voices in the back.
Yeah.
It was just really fun. Like, we got to all do it together, and that's where I first really liked realizing that I loved it. And then became a video intern in junior high and through high school, and then went straight to film school once I graduated. So it just kind of carried on.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really thought that I would be able to do it as a career.
Mm-hmm.
So once I finally started my business, it was like, I think I might be able to do this. And after 3 or 4 years, it was like, oh, I can do this. But of course, over the years, it's like, oh, can I do this? I can do this. Can I do? It's a battle.
I was going to say, it's probably never ending. And you're still making film, and you're making commercial projects here in Reading. And I've been in Reading. I've lived in Reading for about 15 years now, and I've seen a lot of people come and go in your space. Tell us a little bit about I guess the struggle and the dynamic of, like, you want to be creative, you want to live in Reading. How do you make it happen? How do you keep going? When there's challenges, which there always will be in your space.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, Reading is a different market. There's a lot of video production going on in San Francisco and LA, of course. But Reading's one of those places that, we're far enough from a big city where we don't get those big city contracts. And then the local marketing kind of atmosphere is very word of mouth. Mm-hmm. So you don't need as much. You're not competing against as much different companies where you have to advertise online all the time, or whatever. So there have been a lot of different people that come into town, very creative, want to do film, and they just can't get enough work.
Right.
And so it's a struggle. If there's not as much demand, there's not as much work. And so these people will come into town, they'll start working with me or get plugged into these different networks, and then they're like, hey, I want to keep doing this, but I can't do it here.
Right.
And so they leave, and rightfully so. I mean, if you really want to do it, you're going to find a place that you can make it happen. But I think for me, the priority was staying here over doing video, which sounds weird to me even saying that, because I had opportunities to move to Colorado and different other places to do video work. And I was like, I really like Redding. And there's a significant shift for me in 2014. I was about to leave. I was about to move to Colorado. And that week, there were a series of significant barriers that happened in my life. And it was just like, I think this is a clear sign that I'm not supposed to go. Like, there's something happening to where, car accident, grandfather getting cancer, like all this series of things within a week. And so I decided, I said, you know what, I'm going to, in my Christian upbringing, this word is like recommit myself to Redding. And I did. And that was a really turning point for me, where I was just like, no, I'm going to reinvest. I'm going to recommit myself, stay here. And that's when I kind of started moving forward with purchasing properties and moving my entire life into downtown Redding, where I kind of isolated that focus. I narrowed my focus to downtown Redding. And it was really cool. It's stuck with me ever since, where that passion for Redding, the care for what's going on, kind of focusing on the exciting things and the community building, rather than some of the the things that I cannot control outside of my sphere. So it's an honor to be doing what I'm doing, and I'm hoping through my lifetime that I can create more opportunities for filmmakers to thrive, to have jobs, to be building a creative film market here in the industry. That's what I would love to see.
That's awesome. We'll come back to some of the film and creative side of it. But you mentioned buying a property. You have a property downtown. You're one of the OGs, I like to say, downtown real estate investors. Before K2 came in, before a couple other partners came into downtown, you bought a property on Pine Street quite a while ago, and you've been investing in downtown. So, the committee of people that talked about Rising Star and who we wanted to highlight and recognize for this award, your creative content, the things that you do for corporations and companies in this community is really compelling. But I think the thing that really kind of tipped you over was all the other things that you're doing. It's not just what you do professionally, but it's what you're doing, personally. I mean, professionally through businesses, but you're making Redding a better place to be and live, and you turned a kind of sleepy downtown building into a vibrant building full of a lot of people. So, kudos to you for what you've done. And, how did you make that decision to buy that I wouldn't say first, but buy that 1800 Pine Street building, and kind of what was going through your mind when you did that? Because it's a big jump. Even though people think it's exciting to buy real estate, as you and I both know, it's also stressful. So tell us about that process and like, hey, I'm gonna double down in Redding.
Yeah. It was a slow process. I think it was very much opportunity at an opportune time. I bought my first house in 2010, right after the market crash. People were selling things cheap, and it gave me a kind of an excitement for it. I realized like, oh, I'm good at this. Like, I can have 4 roommates, cram myself in a tiny closet, and pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
Like, how wild is that? And over time, I kind of bought every 2 years, kind of kept that same trajectory. And once I started renting an office over at 1800 Pine, which is where now I own, it was a couple years where I was like, man, this place is a dump. And it's constantly got, tagging all over it. And the owner was really great guy, but he just didn't care. He was just like, I just need some tenants.
That's a lot of property owners in Redding.
Yeah. And
great
at that
people,
time,
slumlords to a degree.
At that time, it was really different. I mean, the mall was still here. Everything was undeveloped, empty. Nothing was happening. So I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can make this building work. And because it was like 2 tenants in the entire building, 6,000 square feet, I was like, I think I can butter this guy up enough. And it took me a year to talk him into it. And actually, I went and talked to his wife.
Oh, there you go.
And I said,
the real
hey,
decision maker.
Hey, I heard you guys are looking at moving out of here and all this stuff. And she's like, yeah, you're interested in buying it. I was like, yes. So finally, I came back from a really long trip out of the country, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the risk. And it was a big risk, and it was painful.
Yeah.
at times. It's very expensive. It's a lot of work, even buying at that time, which I'm so thankful I did. But, 6 AC units, and when those go out, they're not cheap.
Yeah, and roofs, all the things.
And, it's then you have tenants, and tenants are sometimes great and sometimes
they're needy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very lucky and very thankful that I was able to invest when I did. I think the timing was great. And now, my investing has slowed down significantly. Just the market is very expensive, and it's and for I think some of that is good too. Now that the renting value has gone up, it's like, okay, cool. People are seeing the value of downtown.
Yeah, we're all winning a little bit. People that own property downtown, so it's great. And I've had it for a while.
Yeah.
Tell us about. So again, you have a bigger vision for Reading. It's not just your professional career, but how do you? Let me rephrase this. What makes a great city, and how can we make Reading a great city?
That's a very good question.
I didn't really prep you for that.
I know, it's okay. So I'll just say some of the great cities I like going to have multicultural events, have great food. I'm definitely a food traveler.
Yes.
We already have the landscape, and you can jump on the river within a few minutes from downtown. You've got so many things like Turtle Bay, where I can take my 4-year-old out and do all kinds of fun stuff with him on a weekend, ride my bike around in the trails. So we have so much of those things. But I think the intermingling of people within our downtown, the amenities, the luxuries of having, a Thai restaurant next to a burger joint that then you can go get some noodles, like all kinds of different things that make you stay in downtown. And then, of course, the arts,
right.
Having a location to see some great films, to go look at some visual art, to hear a concert, and you could do that all within a day is really amazing. And seeing these downtown Reading events, like when those happen, you're like, oh, this is it. It's all coming together.
Yeah.
Blocking off Market Street and having these, concerts, and, it's cool because that's the Reading I want to live in. And I feel like it's part of the Reading I've contributed to. And I see it moving even more forward with all of us together. There's still so much to be done. And with that growth, there's growing pains, and there's things that need to be adjusted and figured out. And hopefully there's, individuals, organizations, and people that need to be talked to that say like, hey, tuck in that shirt,
right.
Just iron that just a little bit, put some paint up, do those little things that increase the quality and challenges everyone to rise to the occasion. And I think with all of us together, it's going to happen. And it already is happening.
Yeah, it's happening for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So you're talking about cultural stuff downtown. You're a big part of this in many ways, but the biggest one is this year you took on the Sundial Film Festival, which I ran many years ago when I was with the Active 2030 Club. And I've told people this before, I'll be honest. At the time, we got it from Rotary, who had it. Mark LaSalle's and Mary LaSalle's had it once upon a time with their son, who's a filmmaker. We took it at the Active 2030 Club, and the primary objective was to raise money that would then go to kids. You took it over this year, and I couldn't be happier because you're someone that loves film, and you're really leveling this up big time. I mean, it was dwindling again because there was a lot of people involved that were not passionate about film, but you are. So, what is the Sundial Film Festival? What did it look like this year? What is it going to look like moving forward? And then tell us about the Reading Film Fund.
Yes. So I was a part of the Sundial Film Festival.
We always begged you because you always had the best movies. So we're like, Tyler, if you don't do one this year, we're just going to cancel the whole event. Yeah, you please submit.
Yeah, it was so cool. And it was my first film festival experience. I think it was 2010 when I did my first, short documentary. And it was just such a fun, everyone looked forward to it. My small group of filmmaker friends were like, oh, are we going to make something this year? And it was always a struggle. It was just hard to do.
Yeah.
And we saw that with a lot of the filmmakers, like, well, I couldn't do this year, but I'll try next year or whatever. And so over time, when I saw the film festival shifting a little bit, it was like, maybe this is, and then COVID happened and it was just hard, and without developing those local filmmakers, they can't make films, which then they can't submit to a film festival. So I knew there needed to be more resources available. And when we approached the 2030 Club, they graciously were like, yeah, I think this would be great. A team of filmmakers coming in. We've done a great job, keeping this alive for 16 years.
Right.
And so when myself and Tyler Lockamy and Tom Green kind of decided, hey, we're going to take this over, it was really, really, really exciting. We opened it up for international submissions, which gave us a lot more content to play with, to program. It also gave us a lot of diversity of film types. So it wasn't just local stories. It was local stories and international stories and narrative films and comedies and all these other things that brought filmmakers up to our area. And so that was a big part of it, is we wanted filmmakers from different areas to come up to Reading and experience Reading in a positive light, where they're like, wow, this is a great place to make a movie. We loved the community. We were at the Cascade Theater this last year, and it was like amazing theater.
Yeah.
And we got to hang out with all these filmmakers that we liked. And with the filmmaking community, especially indie filmmaking, it's all, it's this connection where you find the people that you really like working with, and you find those festivals like, oh, these festivals really celebrate the filmmakers. They curate the programming really well. They care deeply. It's not just about a monetary gain. It's not just an event. It's something personal. So we were really, really excited for this first year. We changed so much. Going from moving into a smaller venue like Riverfront Playhouse to then moving back to the Cascade, having 1,000 tickets sold. It was a big,
That's amazing.
It was a big achievement. And if anyone is looking for validation, go to our filmfreeway.com/Sundial Film Festival and look at the filmmakers' comments, because they saw Reading in the light that we were projecting. They saw the beauty of the nature. We went to Pipeline, we took them to FOMO, we took them to all these different places where we really treated them as guests and celebrities. And when they went away, they're like, we're telling all of our friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just talking about this on a previous podcast where people really need to, I think we're our own worst enemy, right? So like we need to actually like love our city, care about our city, and really think about, if we want to see it better, we have to do it. We have to do things like the Sundial Film Festival and buy buildings downtown and make them look better. We have to roll up our sleeves and actually like contribute to making Reading a better place to live. So all of this stuff I think is huge. Talking with people at the Arts Council and Viva Downtown and what we're doing at the Chamber, like it's all of us kind of saying, hey, we're gonna just keep moving forward, and we're gonna make Reading better. So that's awesome. So tell us about the Reading Film Fund as well. And kind of the future of the Sundial Film Festival.
Yeah, so the Reading Film Fund is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our goal is to raise a significant amount of funds that then we can provide scholarships and grants. So scholarships for students that want to learn filmmaking, animation, any of those type of visual arts, that we can then provide them some funds to go to those workshops and kind of get out of the area, or certificate type of things. The other thing is funding grants for local filmmakers. So you want to do that drama film or that narrative or that documentary, you submit your treatment and your pitch deck, and then hopefully, we get to fund those things.
Right.
And it's this big kind of ecosystem that we're trying to build, which is we provide funding and equipment and different things to our local filmmakers to create content to then submit to the Sundial Film Festival and other festivals around, the world. So then we can get more excitement around film. People can hear about what's going on in Reading. We can build the content of local, filmmakers and give them a platform to highlight their films. So right now we're in the very early stages of building this, but with all of that, we need the support from the community. We need the support from outside entities, because as we build this film, that's this fund, it's going to fuel everything else. I've been a part of Media Coalition, Shasta County Arts Council Media Coalition for about a couple years now, and that is a group that meets together monthly that is all filmmakers, visual artists, and we all share equipment and we talk about, hey, I got this job here, I need some support here, and just that collaboration with all of us together is what's going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So the Reading Film Fund operates the Sundial Film Festival in conjunction with that, and we're just hoping to get more films up here, more jobs, and more connectivity within the community.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of films, you had a big film. I don't know if it was your biggest one, but it sure felt like it to me, someone that's been watching you for a long time. You had a big film in the last couple of years, the ACID documentary, or Acid Canal. I always say ACID. What do you hear at the meetings? Is it ACID or Acid?
Both.
Yeah.
We
Acid just sounds weird.
acid.
I think.
We call it acid canal because it's like you're flipping through and you're like, oh, acid canal.
Oh,
What's
that's a
that?
good point.
Yeah. So people still call it an ACID canal, but it's more the locals. Everyone else, when I was traveling all over the U.S., they're like, oh, acid canal. This is cool.
Yeah.
It was a super fun project. We were learning a lot through following the story. We were capturing for about a year. The story was told over the course of 8 months, and then we were in post for about 7 months. So we released in October of 2023 2022. Is that right? No.
You released in 23, I think.
23, October 23. It's been a while already.
Yeah. Almost 2 years.
Yeah. And then we were able to finally do our event in August of 25. And no, we're in
24.
25.
We're in 25.
Jeez.
August of 24.
Where are we?
Yeah.
I was
It's 2030. It's 2030.
2030.
Yeah.
Okay.
Colon's 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were able to release and do our premiere at the Cascade in 2024. And that was really neat because the whole community showed up.
And you sold it out.
We sold it
which
out.
is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it really isn't, especially for a local event. You sold out the Cascade. Good job.
Yeah, thanks. And that was part of the thing. It was like, hey, we can sell out the Cascade. What about the Sundial Film Festival?
Yeah.
That was what we're going for. But it was a great project. It was a lot of work, a lot of chasing down leads, a lot of sifting through what's truth, what's hearsay. How does this impact the local economy and then agriculture and the environment? And it was seeing it outside of the area. We won Best Documentary at the Phoenix Film Festival, which was in competition with 1,800 other films.
That's amazing.
And being there and hearing some of the water woes in Phoenix, and seeing all these different water stories all over. Richmond, Virginia was another one. They had these interesting water stories. That was what was cool. It wasn't just relevant to our local community. It was important to our community, but outside of the area, it was like, no, we understand how delicate this system is and how important water is and how much we take it for granted. So it was neat. It resonated with not just our area, but a lot of others. Yeah. And now it's on Amazon, which is great. So go and check it out, Amazon Prime. And it's neat to finally get it out to the public.
That's cool. So if someone's never seen the movie, I don't think I do a very good job summarizing it. What is the movie about?
So it's about a rural community that was affected by the loss of water in the 2022 water season to their irrigation district. So it's following along these stories of these farmers and ranchers, all the while following along the politics that influenced major water sale decision and why the federal government actually decided to reduce the water allocation in the first place. So it was this idea of, wait, we're not getting our water allocation that's been allocated for 100 plus years.
Right.
Why? That's really where it started. And we just pursued that information, getting all the way to the federal government. After 6 months of pushing through, trying to get access, we finally got an interview with the Bureau of Reclamation that answered some of the tough questions. And it was really good. I mean, it was a really good process. I'm still paying it off.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I did it.
I was going to say, how did some of the funding come in for that? Because that's a big project, and a lot of people probably, don't understand how that worked. And so, tell us a little bit about the funding for that project.
Yeah, we got very lucky. I feel I worked with an organization that had a nonprofit branch that funded nonprofit documentaries, environmental specifically. So I already knew that was available to apply to. And we were a couple months in capture already, and I was like, I have to figure out how we're going to fund this. It's not going to stop. The story's not going to stop, and we're going to keep going. So I applied a grant to this nonprofit called Teach Green. They awarded us the funds, and we were able to get through that 6 months after that just through production. We ran out of money, and we just kept going and investing our own time and money into the project. So that was actually the only funding that we received.
Wow.
And without it, we wouldn't have been able to make what we did, but it was very much an investment of time and our own finances. And myself and Tom Green, who's my producer, right-hand guy, he's He's like such a soft-spoken, quiet guy that a lot of people don't know him, but he is incredible. Like he's just talented and available, and he's always like helpful and sees through to the true story.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we were able to do it, and it was really exciting.
Do you ever get money from winning a film festival? Like some of these bigger ones that you submitted?
No. There are winnings at some festivals, but it's not a common thing.
Right.
I would say in the like maybe 10% of festivals give you like a monetary award.
So how do you, I mean, you make this documentary. Is there ever an expectation that you're going to get money for this documentary? Why do you make these? Why do you make these docs? Specifically one like that. And then I've seen some of the other smaller, or I should say shorter documentaries over the years. Why do you make them?
Because we love it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, when you talk to other filmmakers, not outside of documentary world and in documentary world, we're all trying to figure out the same thing. I've got friends who have Emmy award-winning films and are on Disney Plus, and they're still trying to figure out how to get funding.
Wow.
So it's kind of it's not a, I'm trying to think of the right word for it, but there's just not a lot of, there is money out there. It's just the indie filmmakers and some of these other, these filmmakers are just not getting the money.
Right.
So, you got the big streamers that you're competing with, like Netflix, where they say, oh, well, a water doc seems to be doing well. We're going to make one. We're going to spend $5 million.
Right.
And we're going to turn it around faster than you ever could. And more people will watch it.
Or maybe they'll pick it up someday.
Maybe. Yeah.
Small. I mean, you're on Amazon Prime. That's a good first step.
It's a first step.
So how much is it on Amazon Prime?
I think for rent, it's like $3.
How much do you get when someone rents it?
Like cents.
Cents, okay. It's like a streaming on Spotify. Like you get a stream, you get like a...
Or on YouTube.
Like a thousandth of a penny if you have a stream on Spotify or whatever the number is. So,
yeah. It's different. I think we've had 7,000 plus rentals.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and I think we've made $500.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So... big money.
Yeah, huge money. Huge money.
But we just, I think I could speak for, all filmmakers. We just love it. Like, it's that tortured artist idea. Like, I can't see myself not doing it. And even if I have to go work a job, like go to work at Costco or something like that, if I can still keep my dream of making films alive, that's what I want to do. And I think that's where seeing the opportunity or the need for more resources for filmmakers in the area, it's like I think I can make this more of a reality for some other people. Yeah. By raising funds with a nonprofit and giving these, access to certain things. Like you'd be surprised with having no industry here. It's like I need this light, this specific high-powered light. Right. And I have to go to Sacramento or I have to rent it in, and it's really expensive and there's liability to it. Whereas if we've got a resource in town where it's like, hey, I'm doing a personal project, I'm trying to do this, I got no budget. It's like, yeah, borrow it. Yeah. Like that's what we're doing together. Right. Yeah. Right. And how have you balanced that out over the last, several decades now really of your career? How have you balanced out passion projects with, you're doing corporate work as well? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So finding those contracts that, I can help still make a change and do something positive while making money and paying the bills. So I like doing those promotional pieces. I still do commercials for like Lithia, Chevy. But I'm doing a project right now, Shasta College, their Hilo program. Oh, that's a great program. It's so cool. It's so cool. It's so cool. So stuff like that, it's like I still get to do what I love. Yeah. I get to spread the word about really great things that are happening. Did a project with CAL FIRE and McConnell Foundation recently about the Gore Ranch prescribed burn. I think they just burned a few weeks ago. They did. Yeah, last week. It's so cool. Like you get to learn. Every time I'm on set, I learn something new about a different thing. I didn't know anything about prescribed burns and using good fire for land management. Right. And I had no idea that you could get a CTE certificate doing heavy machinery that you can get through in like 8 months. Yeah. That's the cool stuff I learn about. And it's a different thing every few months. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So what's a documentary that you want to do that you maybe can't do right now because of time and money? Sure. Time and money is always a challenge, right? Yeah. Well, I have like 6. Give us the top. Give us your top ones. Yeah, I've got like 6 ready. But the one I'm kind of the most excited about, which is also one of the larger ones is a documentary I'm calling Threads of Connection. And it's all about human connectedness and trying to explore the different ways that we all search out that human connection, whether that be explaining it through science or religion, a spiritual connection, or just as social groups. I want to show the different ways that we all are interconnected, whether we know it or not. So the idea where you're walking past somewhere and you're like, I wonder what that person's doing right now, and all of a sudden you look at your phone and you got a text from them. Or that feeling of like, I don't know if I'm really comfortable in this environment, and you leave and then you realize, oh, there was something strange going on there.
Right.
There's something innately supernatural, if you will, that connects us all. And I want to show the different ways that we all try to explain that. So that's one of them.
So there's a supernatural side. What do they call it on the secular side?
Synchronicity or inner being. There's a ton of words for it because it's we all have these little threads that I think connect us all.
Yeah.
And I was talking to you about it, is challenging this theory in myself of channeling this idea of like, okay, I'm going to walk past this business that it's my friend. I wonder how they're doing, and I'm just going to think about them like specifically, like intentionally think about them. And sometimes they call me, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they text me or I bump into them. They're like, I was thinking about you the other day. I was like, what time, what place?
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a fun experiment. I think we all have those examples of those times that we've experienced that. So having a fun film that you can watch, and at the end of it, you can't say they're wrong or they're right. You can just say, oh yeah, I've experienced that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I also have another project that I'd like to do about native fire techniques, utilizing good fire for land management, following along some of these tribal members and these different fire teams. Some call them fire lighters. And while they learn about the history of land management, why fire was restricted, and some of the things that go into that. So that's something I would really, really like to pursue. I've been talking with a lot of different individuals, trying to make connections. But sadly, what it comes down to all at the end of the day is money.
Yeah, money's a big one.
I hate that because if it wasn't a hurdle, I'd just be doing all this stuff.
Right.
But
I think there is, I shouldn't say money, but I think there is more of a focus right now with like the governors focusing on this wildfire and land management task force. There's a lot of tribal engagement. There probably could be a lot more, but there's a little bit right now, and a lot of people are talking about prescribed fire and healthy fire, and from all kinds of perspectives, like going back thousands of years to even going back hundreds of years, where the cattle grazers used to go up into the woods. On their way out, they would basically toss a match and then burn back everything that wasn't eaten by their cattle. And land management and wildfire is such a complicated topic because there's so many components to it, and there's a lot of politics around it. But we never used to have catastrophic wildfires, in my opinion, mostly because we had really good land management. And a lot of it goes back to that tribal stuff. And then there's also some other components with helo and logging and all these other things that made for a more balanced forest. And but that burning, those stories I've heard from tribal members about, basically burning at the end of winter and then coming back with straight roots and all the components for that and the benefits of that. It's a really interesting topic that the story is really not told that well. And, but I think a lot of people are thinking about it. So
yeah,
I feel like there's money. I feel this is a thread of connection. This is a thread right here.
We're
going to put this out there, and someone's going to be like, I have a whole bunch of money and I want to do this project. Because I think it's true. I think it really is out there, because I think we need to change the way we do land management. And I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And kind of getting back to where we used to be to some degree.
Well, and it's not that far away. It's interesting. I was talking to, we were on that burn with McCollum Foundation and CAL FIRE, and Jim Rickert was out there. And he was talking about how his grandfather, what they would do. And they would burn that same land that they were on. And that was just part of the process. And so finding out why it was restricted, who were those, governments involved, answering some questions while finding out what was the traditional techniques of land management. Yeah. So it's very fascinating.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Where do you see the Redding area in 10 years? Where do you see it, and what do you hope to see?
Yeah. It's hard. I've been in business 17 years now, lived here almost my whole life, and I've seen a lot of growth. And now I see a lot of things that have come together from 10 years ago when I said, when I bought my building downtown, I was like, I think in 10 years, I was actually shooting for 6. But in 10 years, so many things are going to be different. And so many of those things have come together. Market Street, that mall being torn down, that really was a big part of a significant change. Now, I just hope that these businesses and restaurants and other things can thrive. We can get more people spending time downtown. We can get some of these empty storefronts full. And, that's where I see, 10 years from now is less cars in our downtown, more bikes, more walkability, more younger families moving to the outer areas, the different communities and neighborhoods outside of downtown. We live on a street that's close by. I'm not going to say where, just in case.
But we live on a cool street.
We live on a cool street, and it only takes us 5 minutes to get into downtown. So we're constantly walking and biking in. And not living in a bigger city, that's what I miss, is I could walk down to these different restaurants. I could walk to these different places. But I have that in Reading. I have that city feel, but I can get out of it in 5 minutes.
Right.
It doesn't take me long.
Right.
So I'm hoping that more people embrace the downtown area, come into downtown, help build it, help maintain the new buildings and new structures, and hold these organizations and developers accountable and say, hey, why is this empty? Why can't we do this? And how do we help?
Right.
And just put it on everybody else.
Right.
But what do we need to do as community members or organizations or artists? Like, look at what Danny did.
Yeah.
And look at what
Downtown.
Carlo has done, is
Art Hunger,
dressing
murals,
up the downtown.
Yeah.
The art is a huge part of it.
Painted electrical boxes.
Yeah.
You started that at Pine Street, really, didn't you?
Yeah, we had
some of
one.
that stuff
Yeah.
down there. I mean, you've had that for a few years now.
Yeah, don't tell Caltrans.
Yeah, okay.
No, you can. I've already talked.
It's all right.
But yeah, it's kind of doing some rogue art.
Right.
It's way better than an empty trash can that just looks like garbage. Why don't you just paint it and make it cool?
Yeah.
Or a utility box.
Right.
So I'm hoping to see more of that, just more activation, more community members, organizations, and businesses saying, hey, we can do this together. And, that window got broken. I may have some resources to help you fix that window. And just like I need some eggs from your neighbor, how do you help your business next to you?
Right.
And I think we can all do it together.
Yeah, that's cool. So the Reading metro area, which is the actual thing, the metro statistical area is about 180,000 people. Where do you see that population, or where do you want to see that population in 10 years? It's a pretty specific question, but
it is specific. And I don't know if I necessarily want to see it expand. I'm not one for let's make Reading bigger. I'm one for let's get the community more engaged. Let's make it stronger. Let's make it our town. That's what I would rather see than it to be, of course, money lends itself to helping do those things. So yeah, let's figure out how to make our community more wealthy. Let's figure out how to make it more connected, and not worry about who we need to bring in. I'm not sure how to do that.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that in my own little world.
Yeah.
I know I've talked to you about my focus was Reading, and then my focus was downtown Reading, and then my focus was my block. And I know that I can see significant change if I focus small.
Yeah.
And I focus on how do I get that sidewalk repaired? How do I get new striping on our street? How do I make it safer for my son? How do I make downtown more walkable? Who do I need to kind of press into or email or be the squeaky wheel?
Right.
Because in Reading, it's accessible.
Totally.
Everyone's accessible. You can call your city councilor and they're going to respond.
Absolutely.
Where you go to a bigger city, it's not that accessible. So holding ourselves accountable as well as our political figures and organizations is really important.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know how to phrase this question, but I'm thinking about the bank next to you and what the future of that bank is going to be. It used to be Union Bank.
Yep.
It's been closed for probably a year and a half.
Over that, yeah.
2 years now.
Yeah.
I think it's funny when I see social media because I understand to some degree the cost of development and tenant improvements and all this stuff to flip a building. Like, it's very expensive and it's very hard, and the math has to make sense. If the math doesn't work, unless you are a billionaire, you cannot just do whatever you want with a building. So what do you think can happen with that bank? I'm really putting you on the spot here.
Yeah.
Realistically, because I've had people look at it that I know, and it's a tough one to kind of figure out because of some of the deferred maintenance. But what do you think is going to happen with that building? And if you want to totally punt this one, you're fine.
Yeah.
But because again, like, what's realistic at Union Bank? It's a kind of a big, awkward building for certain uses.
Yeah, it's a lot of square footage that's not all usable.
Right.
It's very tall. There's a lot of change out that would need to happen. It's a tough one. I mean, the nice thing is they've got that big parking lot, which has turned into a community parking lot.
Right.
So anyone that's thinking like, don't develop it, I need my parking spot. But I don't know. I mean, I've talked to a couple developers that have said, "Oh, we're thinking about buying it," and I was like, I'd try to think of something like a climbing gym or some figuring out something that brings people here for entertainment.
Right.
I would hate to see another. All the banks. I'm happy they're here, but I don't think we need another bank downtown, especially with banking shifting so much as it is. I don't think we need another insurance agency or anything like that. So how do we create something that will bring more people downtown, and something that might collaborate with the other businesses? Asking Vintage, what would help your business here? Because Cascade Theater is amazing. When you have those shows, it's funneling all those people into those restaurants, into that downtown area. So what could enhance that? What could enhance the businesses around it, and figuring out what's the best fit? And of course, you have to have somebody with money that has a vision for it, that wants to come in and put the hard work and the money into it.
Right.
But I don't have a great answer.
Yeah.
It's just thinking about those things of, what can benefit that block.
Right. Yeah, I think about that all the time. And I mean, I think about, and people ask me from where I was at the EDC to where I'm at now, and talking to national retailers and local retailers. I think that's my biggest heartache and headache is, what do we do with big lots? What do we do with old banks? What do we do with the old Rayleighs? How do we do this stuff? What do we do with all these big empty storefronts specifically? And not to say that the small storefronts aren't important as well, but these big businesses that are like, Rite Aid's probably going to close pretty soon here. So what is going to happen with all those buildings? And figuring out a way to incentivize people to say, hey, we're going to make this really easy for you to build here. We're going to make this as financially feasible as we can, but without some outside investment arm coming in. What can the city, specifically the government, do to say, hey, we're going to make this easier for you? But again, a lot of it comes down to the market, and some of these bigger boxes, especially on the Dana Drive area, are owned by national REITs, and it's the really small thing on the balance sheet that they don't care that much about, to be honest with you, because I've talked to some of their CEOs, and it is something that we have to do, because a lot of those building owners probably aren't going to do it. Like, what are we going to do to make these big boxes? Because I love downtown. The Chamber loves being in downtown, but I also love Dana Drive and Hilltop and Enterprise and Hartnell and all these places that have a certain amount of large vacancies. Figuring out the next step. I mean, I see people on social media, they're like, let's put an ice skating rink in. I'm like, well, that's a great idea, but how many ice skaters are you going to have every year, and how many leagues you're going to have? How many things you're going to have to keep this open? Because we look at the Reading Sports Park. Everyone loves the Reading Sports Park, but unless it's subsidized by our local government, it is not sustainable. So that thing cannot live on its own. It has to be subsidized. So how do we look at, I'm not saying we need to subsidize national REITs, but we need to figure out a way to make these things pencil out. And I don't know the answer. If somebody does, they can let me know.
Yeah. Well, and are big box retail going to come back?
Probably not.
We went to, I think it was a little bit post-COVID, we went to Seattle, took that flight from Reading to Seattle, and it was like, wow, what happened?
It's totally different.
Who's going to move into these giant spaces?
Right.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And so for our downtown, it's how do we work with what we have, and preserve the history without just tearing things down.
Right.
But maybe some do need to get torn down. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was on another episode. I did talk about kind of preserving the legacy while building new, and I think downtown's a great example. I mean, we have storefronts that are open back up that haven't been opened up since the 60s, probably. Is that when the mall came together, like the earliest 1960s?
Yeah, I'm not positive.
It was around the 1960s when that mall was starting to put together, because my family grew up here in the 60s and 50s, and it was Main Street America there on Market Street. And so I think we've done a good job. You look at the IOF Hall and some of these other buildings that the storefronts are being put back together. And then we have new stuff, obviously, like K2 and Market Center, which used to be kind of a somewhat ugly, just in a block building.
Yeah.
So it's a big improvement. We didn't necessarily need to preserve Dickers. We love the history, but the building itself, we could go without it. So I think we are doing a pretty good balance, but it's always going to be hard. We're going to look back someday and say, why did we tear down this thing? But tough decisions have to be made.
Yep.
It's unfortunate.
Or else we were just sitting on our hands.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. We are all representative of Reading. People love coming in to any area, and they will typically Yelp or comment on their worst interaction, their worst experience. And we don't want anyone going away with that. We want people coming and saying, man, that town was vibrant, cohesive. They paid attention to the wayfinding. They paid attention to the roads. They made it bikeable. It all made sense. They were utilizing the landscape, the amazing river that we have, and I want to go back because of that experience. And I don't think we have a lack of amazing people here. We have really, really great people here. It's just us coming together and having this common conversation of, hey, yeah, it's hot. Like, let's just say, yeah, that's hot, it's whatever. Hot. But let's go jump in the river. Let's shifting that conversation where it's not just these negative things and portraying a positive image of what Reading is. Because there's great things. And if you don't see the greatness here, you're not paying attention.
Right.
Or you're in the wrong social group.
Right.
Because there's great stuff.
Yeah.
You're missing out.
Yeah. The City Builders podcast is brought to you by Obsidian IT. Obsidian IT is a Reading-based, employee-owned technology company providing simple, scalable outsourced IT for your business. Discover how Obsidian cares about IT and give them a call at 530-242-6000 or obsidianit.com. Obsidian keeps us running at the chamber, and we could not do business without them.